Fantastic. Welcome to Kaivala Yoga. Today we will be discussing crisis. And I'm here with my friend Warren and my other friend Brianna. And I'm Stuart. And we're going to rock the house today. In life, some people feel like they have a large number of crises that they have to take care of, that need to be taken care of. And today, we're just trying to get to a perspective of what is crisis in life. There are three ways of looking at our lives. The first way is in the physical realm, the second way is in the mental realm, and the third way is in the emotional realm. And I put the emotional and the spiritual kind of close to each other because it's hard to, in that realm, it's difficult to see the difference between the two. Spiritual seems to be more of a consistent, non-material, where emotional is something that happens to your body. But there's a bridge where the two of those come together. Now, in life, what is the first thing that's important is in the physical realm, we got to make sure that we balance movement and stillness. So how do you find balance between movement and stillness?
You want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think of it as in my everyday life, and I find my balance as using my body physically, being active, not necessarily going to the gym and pumping iron, but movement, as in playing with my kids on the floor or taking a walk, and then also getting my heart rate up there, of feeling that feeling, and I feel like you can get some euphoria from that. And then also really adequate sleep, very very important in our lives. And I feel that is stillness, obviously, and then meditation as well. So being still, listening to your thoughts, allowing your mind to quiet down rather than just go all the time.
Yep. That's awesome. Do you have any ideas?
I don't know. I don't know how I would say that I go about balancing the stillness and the movement. I know that I am active and that I am not active, and I don't really put a lot of thought into it. Just, I'm sure I do it. I don't get as much sleep as I probably should, but it's never really been a problem for me, so yeah.
Cool. Perfect. I don't have anything more to say to that. The next part is climate control. And both of you have very differing styles of climate control. I'll answer first because I didn't quite do movement v stillness. But with climate control, I find that it doesn't matter to me as long as I'm surrounded by great people. If I'm in a loving, caring community, it doesn't matter what temperature it is, 115 degrees or -0 or -10. So go ahead.
I don't like to be cold, ever. I don't like getting out of the shower. I don't like extreme coldness. I'm learning from you, however, to look at that as what is, and just noticing my body and how your body changes in so many different ways when you are cold, and noticing like the hairs rise up, and noticing how you get a little tense, and you can sometimes almost feel like your blood pumping to keep you warm, and being aware of that. And it is interesting, but deep down, I don't like it. I don't like being cold. Hot, I'm totally good. However, I haven't been in like 20 or 115 degree weather, so like 105 is probably the hottest I've been in, and it's cool. It's good. I can deal with that.
Well, yeah, we are a lot different in
Yeah.
that respect. I am going to tell you, if you're ever doing physical labor and it's 120 degrees in Phoenix, that's not
Yeah.
pleasant.
Yeah, I haven't done that either. So
Yeah, I just kind of have learned to deal with temperature variations. I actually do a breathing exercise for when I'm too cold.
What is it like, if you don't mind me asking?
Actually, I got it from a guy, can I name drop?
Yeah.
I got it from a gentleman named Wim Hof.
Mhm.
He was in the commercials for Columbia for a while. He
Mhm.
would sit on ice, in his shorts.
Yeah.
This is a man who, through his breathing exercises, was able to raise his core body temperature while buried up to his neck in ice for an hour and a half, which is impressive to me. And the breathing technique it's really simple. You just inhale sharply, hold it for about 10 seconds, exhale sharply and hold that for about 10 seconds, and the entire time you're visualizing fire. So just intense fire and heat. And when I was training for an old wilderness therapy job in the middle of winter with my plus 25 bag, I was doing that a lot, and it worked. It actually, you talked about how it gets your heart rate. Your heart rate gets going, and that's what the breathing technique does. If you don't think about the fire and you just focus on your body, your heart starts going, and it heats you up. And I guess that's probably what I do when I take cold showers too, because if I take a hot shower, I'll be in there for like an hour. So out of necessity and a good water bill, just cool showers.
super fascinating though how it can, the breath exercises, but the visualization, visualizing fire, how it can actually heat your body up.
Yeah.
That idea just kind of blows your mind, because what else is possible in that aspect? That's really cool.
When you visualize fire, is it like a campfire that you're underneath the rain and a tarp, and you got kids you got a little couple sticks that are smoking together, and then there's a little itty bitty fire, or how does it appear to be?
I think when I first started doing it, what I was doing was visualizing, like a campfire.
Mm-hmm.
Just in my mind, I'm huddled around a campfire and I'm getting the heat from it. And then I started kind of going the comic book route and going Human Torch, like I am fire, I am the heat.
Yeah.
And that worked better for me than just visualizing flame. I became the flame, and that made a difference.
Wow.
I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
And just for the home viewers, we should put a precaution on breathing, because holding breath for 10 seconds after an inhale and holding breath for 10 seconds after an exhale, just to start off the gate, you're probably either going to get a headache, a neck ache, a shoulder ache, or something.
Pass out.
Yeah. Well, to play off that, I didn't start at 10 seconds, or I worked my way up, I think, to 20, and that was it. But I started out with, I would inhale and exhale and do that a couple times, and then I would hold and exhale for just 5 seconds, and I gradually worked my way up. But yeah, I did not start off right there.
Yeah.
When you get there, though, it makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's really cool.
And then on the other end is the cooling exercise. And in yoga they have, and I'm only assuming that you don't know about the other end of what do you do when it's 110 degrees outside, and how do you cool your body down? In yoga they have a breath called shitali breathing. And shitali, not to be confused with English, shitali, in Sanskrit what it means is cooling breath. And you make taco tongue with the tongue. And then you inhale through the taco tongue. And exhale through your nose. You can still feel the tongue cool in the mouth, usually when you do the exhale.
I actually feel coolness stillness already.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah.
Freezing.
That's
No, I'm
pretty
just
cool.
kidding. Just kidding.
Then the last is ins and outs, what I call ins and outs. And what I mean by that is the food that we need to bring into the body, the nutritional supplements that we need to bring into our body, and the medicine that we need to bring in our body. And then the outs will have to be, we need to sweat, we need to use the bathroom, to say it in the least way. And sometimes we need to vomit, sometimes we need to cry. But having a balance of all of those things in the physical realm ensures that our body maintains health. How are the ins and outs? That's a funny question to ask.
How are they?
Yeah. How do you find balance?
I think for me, I guess this could kind of lean toward emotional, but you'd mentioned crying, and so many people will hold crying in, and I find crying to be it's such a wonderful relief, and so I think that it's an out, like you said. If you have human waste, if you have to urinate and you hold that can kill you. If you have to defecate and you hold that can kill you. And I think the same can be said for tears. I think that you could potentially die from holding it in if you need to cry.
Wow.
Maybe that's a bit extreme, but I know that it can cause harm if you hold that kind of thing in.
Yeah.
Wow. Any insight?
That was beautifully said. That was, because sometimes after a good cry, you feel like just like, and everybody knows what I mean when I say, and so I think it's just it's relieving and just releasing all that energy, and then the physical tears. I think that's really cool.
To add a note, I would say sweating would be another one, to a certain degree. I think I shared with you the most popular ingredient in makeup and cosmetics. Do you know what it is? It's urea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ironically, it's urea.
Nice.
And so when we sweat, we have urea come through the sweat glands, and it helps our skin heal. One of the big reasons why kidneys are so hard to do surgery on is because they constantly have the urea going through them, and the way that you stitch up a wound, it is a complete. It's completely complicated because the kidneys heal too fast for the stitches. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Then the next is, so we're done with physical now. And then what about the mental realm? Our needs of the mental realm are three. And this is what I call the three pillars of intelligence. And the first pillar of intelligence is the capacity of being able to observe the world without any judgment. Yeah. And when we do that, it gives us, what we're doing is basically data collection. And then do you want to go for it? How do you do data collection in the world? How do you synthesize? How do you look at stuff without having the judgment there, without having the emotional response?
Well, yeah, just looking at something without judgment is, I think, simply, it's there in what we're saying. You're looking at things without judging. It's accepting that something is as it is, to me, If I have an itch on my nose, I have an itch. This is not a good or bad thing, I simply have an itch. That's an observation without a judgment. And then, you can collect the data. Well, my nose is itchy. What could I do to alleviate that? I could scratch it, and then you would act on that and scratch the nose. So
I'm all scratchy.
just it's to make it something very simple, Yeah, it just, things are, and they're not good or bad unless we label it as good or bad. So,
Cool. Do you want to go?
I just want to point out the word that you used as simply and simple. And I feel like saying observation without judgment, immediately it can be like this complex idea that people might think. But when you just narrow it down, it's just simple, like looking at the world for what is and thinking, oh, that's interesting, rather than having an assumption about a situation. Or so just the word simple, I think, can just pinpoint what that means.
Simple observation.
Mm-hmm.
The next is understanding. How do we synthesize all of the pieces of the puzzle to be able to put it together? What are the tools that you use?
I just think bringing it all together. So if we're looking at something simple, that is, the apple is green, the apple is, well, okay, that's a bad example, but okay, your nose itching. Okay, so we're looking at it simply. Your nose itches, and then bringing that together, bringing the ideas of what should I do to relieve that. And then you can form ideas, your plan. It's like your intent, your goal, so to say.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to shoot?
I like the word, the intent there. It's good. When you have a situation that you've observed, you try to learn about it, like what is causing it, what are the components of it, so that you can understand it, preferably in a simple way as well. At least to me, I like to keep things simple. So yeah, just gathering your data and coming to an understanding about what you've observed.
Yeah, I find that if I try to do understanding when I should be doing observing, things get messed up really quickly. If I keep understanding over here and then I do observation over here, then I can understand. Then I can clearly see what all of this stuff is, and then I can clearly begin to start to organize everything and how I need to schedule, prepare, and get ready to take action. And that's where I see the whole understanding part is, synthesizing the data, making it more abstract as far as the way that I can handle it with all of the different concepts, and then putting all the pieces together, seeing what kind of plans I can make so I can take action in the most effective way, which is the last one.
The last step.
Yeah, taking action. When you take action in life, what helps? That's a pretty tricky one.
I think just having a good plan based on your observations will allow you to take good actions. If you are simply observing and then acting without gathering data, then you're just reacting, and that usually doesn't go well. But then as far as actually taking action, you've gathered your data, you've made your observations, you've kept them separated. I think depending on the situation, it could be just having like-minded people around you could be a big help. Someone that's willing to share in that. That's all I can think of right now.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just
that's awesome.
having like-minded individuals with you. It makes acting on something a lot easier. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how do you act?
Well, I think of it as you were talking, it just kept popping in my head. Like in college, there's plenty. I mean, I wrote thousands of papers, right? And there'd be those times when I would wait till the last minute, and I have a X amount of paper or pages due. And the last night, I throw it together, and it never works out. I mean, it just doesn't. It doesn't flow. It doesn't have. It's hard to have a good, solid beginning, middle, and end, and clear transitions. When I take my time, and I start with just a circle, and I just start writing down one word answer, or one word, just simple, just ideas, or not sentences, just one word, and it kind of gets your brain rolling, right? And then you go from this circle with all these random words to creating an outline. And then when you outline it, it still doesn't really flow, but you have okay, this is what I'm going to do in the beginning, the middle, the end, and then kind of like the transitioning. And then you put it all together, and it's this flowing, beautiful paper sometimes. But it always works out so much better than when I throw it together the night before. And so that just kind of, as you were talking, that's what was coming up in my mind, is having these pictures, and it helps you to then do that in your life. So it helps you. It's kind of like when you try to learn somebody's name, you think of an image, or you try to memorize something and it could be the craziest thing ever, but you'll never forget their name. It's kind of the same way. It's like having this idea of the paper is going to help you to then do observation without judgment, and then making a plan, your intent, and then taking action.
It's fantastic. Yeah, this is really beautiful, because you can take that plan, or that methodology, and apply it into any other perspective of your life.
Right.
The last is the emotional need that we have. Now, throughout your life, what kinds of emotions do you want to be feeling? I think that's a pretty good start. That would be really interesting. Go ahead, Bree. What do you have?
What kind of emotions do I want to feel?
Yeah.
Good ones. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's as we talked about before. If you have, so when the way that philosophers define good, and the way that they define it as bad, is just an individual checklist.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have things on their good side, and other people have things on their bad side. I didn't mean to say that you're a bad person or you're a good person.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. So the question that we have now is, what emotions do you want to have in your life?
I want to have all of them. I mean, primarily, I would like to feel euphoric and happy, but I don't think that you can be a human without being sad.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be human without feeling some sort of anger or despise. Or it reminds me of that movie Inside Out. You have to have everything to create a human and have a human experience. But then letting them flow together is what makes it beautiful, and not letting one particular emotion take over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, happy and joy can be a prominent one.
A lead.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting. You ready?
Yeah, I agree with Bree. I think that it does come down to balance again, and not just that, but appreciation, because I want to experience all of the emotions, because without sad, happy is not the same. You know, without, say, joy, anger isn't the same. It's just in order to appreciate the emotions, you have to experience them all. I don't think we should protect ourselves necessarily from anger or sadness. They're natural things. I think we accept those things, accept that we're experiencing whatever we're experiencing, and then move on. You know, like, if you're sad, be sad. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to be sad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't dwell on it. Just, you're sad, okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
Observe.
You know, if you're angry, I always say, if you're angry, it's okay to be angry, but why are you angry? Figure out the why, and then let it go.
Mm.
It's so much easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the two that struck a chord with me are anger and perhaps hopelessness and fear. Those seem to be on that one end of the spectrum, on the emotional end of the spectrum, where we need to have more control. And even still, I would say that all of these emotions we need to find balance with. If we end up swinging too far into the happiness, we're going to distort our reality so bad that the moment we come back from happiness, it's going to be in this place of, it's Candyland. It ain't. Yeah. Then we all risk a disease of heart failure or stroke or cancer, as Candyland does cause eventually.
Yeah.
The other is, well, and then finding balance in this. When we have balance with our emotions, the one that seems to not be in the bowl of our lives is panic. And I find that panic is an emotion that, when I challenge my heart to not be in panic mode, I find the capacity for self-empowerment to soar. Because that seems to be the thing that throws happiness and sadness, anger, despair, whatever it may be, the single emotion that all of this throws, that puts itself out onto the table, that throws everything out of balance, is panic. Now, if you agree with that or disagree with that, then this next question should be a lot easier, and that's who in your life has the types of emotions that you want to feel. Yeah, and perhaps why.
Well, just on the note of panic, I think that although it does kind of wonky everything, I do feel like we have that emotion for a purpose. In today's age, we're not being chased by tigers, usually. And so a lot of people live in fear and panic when they can't find their cell phone, or they lost their keys, or traffic. But back in the day, it was only when you're being chased, and so that like fight or flight state that we get into is meant to be in our lives for a short period and not all the time. So as far as finding people in my life, I feel like someone obviously that is balanced, how I want to feel, but people that acknowledge their emotions and are able, have the self-awareness to come out of that. And not to say, like, I mean, depression is a real thing and it's horrible, but that's where we need to, like, come together and help each other and be a tribe. But I wouldn't want to hang out with my depressed friend day in and day out. So finding people in our lives that are able to flow through the emotions and accept them are the people that I want to be around to help me feel that way as well. Because they say you are who you hang around. So, yeah.
Good.
What?
Yeah. Who and why?
So who embodies the emotions that I want to feel? Is that?
Who is your superhero? And it can be fictional, it could be realistic, could be completely imaginary too.
I have a lot of, fictional characters that I think are excellent examples. I think anybody that is able to, I don't want to say control their anger, but that's able to that is able to feel it and understand why and then let it go. That's the kind of person I like to be around. I guess somebody that just has a handle on whatever emotion it might be. Like you said, happiness. Happiness unchecked is pandemonium. It's nuts, It's no longer. It's no longer really a happy to me. I enjoy being around people that are able to be calm, able to maintain their composure when a situation might be dire. I like to be around thoughtful people. Being around happy people is great, but there are times when, a friend might be sad and you want to be with them, not necessarily because you're sad for the same reason that they are, but maybe you're sad because they're sad and you just want to share that with them for a while. You're not necessarily trying to take it away or anything, you're just sharing it with them. I don't think that answered your question.
No, it's
It did.
perfect.
I don't know,
Absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah, I think anybody that I can share life with, and there's a kicker there because you can share life with pretty much anybody, but we don't. It's another show, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Personality.
But yeah, those are the people I want to be around. People that are willing to share emotions, not judge. Maybe friends that are able to say, just be careful. You could get hurt. If you're like madly in love or something, your friends they're not going to stop you, but they'll caution you because they care. That's who you want to be around, people that care, or that you care about. Because sometimes the people you care about, they don't always care back. Maybe at least not right then.
Yeah. The people that exemplify this idea, for me, Krishnamurti comes to mind. Thoreau comes to mind. Krishnamurti was a guy who he went through something like 20-something initiations. And throughout tons of different religions and different spiritual practices. And then he came back and he was going to do this grandiose talk in front of a whole bunch of people. And that synthesized all of these practices into one. And the completely unexpected thing happened. He got in front of everybody and said, none of this is true, it's all crazy. And the only thing that we can do right now is, the only thing that we should do right now is let go of our judgments that we have against each other and pay attention to the world as it is. And for a spiritual leader to take on that kind of bold move with so much calm and so much poise is, I think that exemplifies what my perspective of a good human is. As well as, the people that are just trying to get by in the world right now, and the tenacity that we all have to do jobs that we're not very excited about doing. I think that people that, as simple as someone that sweeps a floor, as simple as someone that flips a burger, as simple as someone that turns on the lights for cameras, and it always ends up being one of the most complex tasks to have, even if you're at the bottom or at the top. It seems that once you start looking at whoever is in what society sees as the bottom, as soon as you start looking at what that person has to go through in order to do what they're doing, it ends up unveiling a richness of emotion and a richness of character and personality. So I have a hard time saying that, as you said before, that we all share this together. We all share the emotions that I want to have. Which leads to the third question, that of the emotional side. And what this question is what can you do to support these people? Because if whatever you want in life, all you have to do is give it away. If we find people that exemplify the emotions that we want to have in our lives, all we have to do is help support them, and then their emotions will be able to trickle into our lives.
Well, that's what I was going to say. To help support them is to give them the emotions that you want to receive back.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the law of attraction. Whatever you put out into the universe, whether it's with your peers or on the street, if you're walking downtown and you want to smile, all you have to do is smile at somebody walking by you, and you're going to receive it. Yeah. And simply put, so just putting out into the universe, I think thought has a lot to do with it. Having positive thought, positive self-worth, and then positive thoughts about other people as well, I think can really help another person in many aspects. I mean, think of it like as a teacher or as a mom, or when you're looking at little kids, they're so easily molded, and we were all there, so that's part of us now as well. But if you tell a kid, if you're just very negative with them, or not necessarily saying bad things, but if your tone, if your just outlook on life, outlook on their life is negative, that's going to affect their self-worth, or could potentially, and especially, most likely it's going to. And then that's how they're going to, in turn, view the world. So just because we can see that easily with children, but that's how it is with our peers and adults and our elders and everybody. We're still all human.
Yeah, you had an interesting post on Facebook this morning of your daughter. You were trying to get her to take vitamin C. And what did you tell her? It was something to the effect of...
Oh, I told her it was a magic happy pill, and it just makes you have the best day you've ever had. And total placebo. She takes it. I think it was krill oil is what she was taking, and she took the pill, and because I've been trying to get her to take vitamins forever, she took the pill, and she told me that she was just the happiest she's ever been, and she couldn't wait to go to school, and she was laughing. And so the power of thought really comes into play there.
Mhm.
And the breathing exercise, viewing the fire, and how it can magically heat up our bodies. It's totally fascinating.
Mhm. You want to go? How could you support the people?
Yeah. Like Bree said, obviously, and I do think it's obvious to say that, yeah, if you want love, you give love. If you want to feel hated, give hate. You'll get it back. Just, yeah, share in what you want to receive. This morning, when I was walking here, I got a little turned around and, realized, oh, I'm like 2 blocks in the wrong direction. And I happened to turn, and there was this gal that was walking by, and I felt silly, so I gave her a big smile, and just, she doesn't know why, but she smiled back, and it's something as simple as that. And sometimes people don't smile back because they don't want to, and that's okay. Like, you're not always gonna get it back, and I don't think that that's the reason you should do it. I think that if you want to receive love, you be loving without expecting love back, because it'll come. It might not come from everybody, though. You're mentioning children and how we can shape them was interesting, because it made me think of there was like a commercial or something, Run Like a Girl. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes.
And do you know what I'm talking about?
I remember vague.
Yeah, it was basically, they asked a bunch of different people, I want you to run like a girl, and a bunch of different people ran in different ways, and most of them were very silly ways of running. And then they asked, I think she was 9 years old, run like a girl, and she ran like a superhero, nothing goofy about it. She just ran like it was everything. And that was a great example of how we can shape culture through emotions. Whether we help it or hurt it is dependent, I think, on the emotions that we put out there. It makes me think of little kids at play, because as adults, I don't think an adult playing basketball has as much fun as a child playing basketball, because a child is doing it just because it's fun and they love doing it and they want to make their friends, they're just there to have a good time with their friends. And then we start keeping score, I think sometime around 5th grade. I don't know. But we do so many things expecting something in return. And I think that if we put the emotions out there, this was a very long way to get to this point, but I think if we put the emotions out there that we want, without giving or without expecting anything in return, that's all you need to do. And if the only love that you're getting back that day is your own, then so be it. It's one more day. It's not, I don't think that's a big deal.
Yeah, if you put it at if you put an expectation on the love that you give out,
Mm-hmm.
you put an if-then statement out there with your love.
Right.
And if you have an if-then statement with your love, you're going to get an if-then statement with the love that you receive back.
Yeah.
And that if-then statement may or may not be in the direction that you really want it to
Right.
go.
Yeah.
The statement like love without limits. Just flow. Just do it.
Wow. Wow. Then, so of the physical realm, the mental realm, and the emotional realm, where are we in crisis?
All of them.
All of them.
Mm-hmm.
Is it panic crisis?
It depends on what you define as crisis.
That's what we're saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm using the qualifier panic next to
Okay.
crisis to
Okay.
figure out, like, is it a level 10?
Right.
Is it panic? We need to freak out and we need to yell and scream and tell everybody underneath the sun.
So Bree said all of them, and I say it's none of them.
Yeah.
And I'll go even further. It's both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all of them and none of them,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a crisis. It's it's whatever we want. It really is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's interesting though, because immediately, like, I say all of them and you say none of them, but then when you take a step back and see the different perspective, it's so true.
it's
Right.
absolutely both.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's whatever we make of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like observing without judgment.
Mhm.
Situation is this, and then you can decide, is it a crisis? Is it not a crisis?
Hmm. Yeah, the part of the world that's funny is it will steer our perspective. It will steer. It probably goes into, the crisis fits into the emotional part where, what is it that you really want to be feeling in your world? Do you want to be putting that out into the world where everything is this red light or green light? It's either red light or green light, but no yellow light.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so with crisis, if we look at the universe, we have a crisis of the universe that's expecting to happen in about 10.2 trillion years. Found out just a few years ago that it's the age of the universe is a little bit older. It's shocking. A scientist was telling a friend of his that the scientists were totally relieved that they found that the age of the universe would be extended, or was going to last a little bit longer. And the person said, "Oh my gosh, what is this? The universe is only gonna. They only thought that it was gonna last 700 billion years old." And the scientist said, "Yeah." And they said, "Oh my gosh, everything's gonna fall apart after that?" "Yeah, everything's gonna fall apart. There's not going to be any matter or space-time or the conception of time, the space-time continuum, all out the window. Yeah, it's all going to be gone after this point." And they thought it was shorter than what it is. And, well, how long is it going to be? And he said, rather than the 900 billion years, it's going to be 10.2 trillion years. And the person said, "What a relief." And that seems to be how we all examine crisis in our personal lives, where, yeah. The next is after a universal perspective, then we have a global perspective of what crises are. And that's a pretty complicated problem that we'll be discussing in later programs of Kaivala, of what are the global crises. And some people say war, and some people say global warming, some people say pollution, some people say a lack of oil, some people say a lack of energy, some people say a lack of food. But when it all boils down to it, it ain't that big of a crisis. It seems to be, relatively speaking, about the same kind of crisis with what's happening with the universe, with the world as well. plenty of food, plenty of shelter, plenty of electricity. And if we could all help out each other in feeling that sense of empowerment and love, it wouldn't be at all a crisis for any of us. Then, on the national level, there's probably nothing that we're going to be able to do to change the tides of what's happening with this culture. There's a lot of cultures going against each other in our political climates right now, and we have extremes of one end of complete government control and another end of no government control at all. And both of those ends don't seem to be the answer at all. And it's only because we live in this perspective of crisis that we feel that there won't ever be a balance between having complete control of government and having no control at all. State level, we have a little bit more control on. The county level, we have a little bit more control on. The city level, we have a little bit more control on. But the thing is, as I think both of you concluded when we were discussing emotions and empowering ourselves on the emotional level, the only thing that we really have control over is what we put out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so if we want to live in crisis mode, we can do that. And if we want to live in love mode, we can do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me. Y'all have an
Thanks for inviting us.
amazing day, and yeah, Kaivala Yoga. Namaste.
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 It's a wrap.
Beautiful.
Yeah.